Welcome to the Lechtich Parsha podcast, where we delve into the Torah's timeless wisdom and uncover uplifting and empowering lessons tailored to the challenges of our generation. A good din Erev Shabbos, Parshas Nitzavim Vayilech Tovshin Pei Daled. Last week, the last Parsha of Tovshin Pei Daled. I hope you're doing well. I hope you had a wonderful week. This week's shir is generously sponsored by my dear friend and chavruso, Reb Tzvi Friedman, in the schos of a prosperous, meritorious din for all of Klal Yisrael, for bracha, hatzlacha, parnosa, gesund nachas, and kol mishalas libenu l'toiva. Amen. Thank you to our corporate sponsors, the Haas and Zaltz Law Firm, Bluestone Brokerage, and Meridian Senior Health, to sponsor a future Lechtich publication and podcast. The Nitzavim are coming up. Please reach out to 845-367-2959 and lock in a sponsorship in honor, in merit of whatever you like. I look forward to hearing from you. This week's Parshas Nitzavim. Atem Nitzavim hayom kulchem yom lefnei Hashem Elokechem. Rashi asks the question, what's pshat? Why is it Lama Nismira, Parshas Nitzavim, to the Parsha of Klala? We ended off Parshas Kisava with the Klala. So what's the juxtaposition? What's the interpretation of this specific smichus? So Rashi tells us, he brings down a Medrash Tanchuma, which tells us a fascinating thing. The Klal Yisrael, Nivalu, Heriku Peneim, their faces became green, they became paled in fear of all the klalos that Hashem told them last week in Parshas Kisavai. They got so nervous, they became despondent and worried. How is it going to be that we are going to prosper? How are we going to survive in face of all of the chatoim, the balances that we've racked up over time? We did chatoim in the midbar, we complained, we did cheta ego, we lost bitachon. There's so many things that we're going to be held liable for. And Hashem gave us a bucket list of very scary, frightening things in that list of klalos. How are we going to endure? How are we going to get past all of the atrocious things that are written in that klala? And Moshe Rabbeinu came this week right after and made a bris with Klal Yisrael, and he told them, Atem Nitzavim hayom kulchem. You're all standing lifnei Hashem Elokechem, before Hashem your God. And continues the Medrash that Moshe Rabbeinu was giving them divrei nechama, words of comfort, words of solace. He was placating them and he was telling them, don't worry, because Hashem is going to take care of you. Hashem is going to carry you through. And while the previous parsha, the parsha of Klalos, is indeed frightening and scary and troublesome to even think about, each klala far worse of a nightmare than the next, but nevertheless Moshe Rabbeinu said, don't worry, because Atem Nitzavim hayom lifnei Hashem Elokechem. You're standing here with Hashem, and Hashem is going to take care of you. Hashem is going to hold you through. He's going to carry you through. And ultimately you're going to overcome. You're going to prosper. And you will walk out triumphant. And everything's going to be amazing. The question is, the Gemara in Bava Kama Daf Nun tells us that Kol Omer HaKadosh Baruch Hu Vatrin, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Viter Al Chayov, that anyone who says Hashem is going to overlook, Hashem is going to look past, Hashem is going to say it's okay, then Hashem is, Achman al-Tzam, we want to say, Hashem is going to be mevater on his life. Hashem is going to say the same thing on that person who says such an erroneous thing of Hashem. Hashem is going to do the same to him. Hashem is going to wipe him out. And the question is, if so, how could it be? How is Moshe Rabbeinu coming with these words of solace, these words of divrei nechama to Klal Yisrael, and saying, don't worry, you did have various in the midbar. You fell, you slipped, you strayed. But don't worry. Atem Nitzavim hayom. You're standing in front of Hashem. This seems almost like a Moshe Shmuz for new Bachrim that are coming that did Averis after who knows what. And the Rosh Hashiva is saying, don't worry, it's okay, we're going to let you back into Yeshiva, we're going to overlook, okay, that may be with the Rosh Hashiva, with Bachrim, but when it comes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Schar Va'inish, and when we do Averis and we distance ourselves, we get in the mud, we have to rectify, we have to cleanse ourselves. So how is Moshe Rabbeinu saying that it's going to be okay, even despite all the things we've done in the past? It seems to be that Moshe Rabbeinu is going against what we know from the Gemara, Divrei Chazal. It's the Torah itself, that if a person says Hashem is a mevater, Hashem is going to be a mevater in their lives. So how do we understand, how do we interpret this Divrei Nechama that Moshe Rabbeinu is giving over to Klal Yisrael? To answer this sharply pointed and compelling question, the late Gateshead Rosh Hashiva, Reb Leib Gorovitz, provides a phenomenal explanation. He says that, of course, Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't going against what we learned in the Gemara, that one cannot say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a vatrin. So what was Moshe Rabbeinu saying? Moshe Rabbeinu meant that even in the face of punishment and retribution, even when Hashem has to met din judgment, and reluctantly Hashem has to pay us back, Rahman al-Itzlan. But even in those situations, Moshe Rabbeinu was reminding Klal Yisrael that when we're standing in front of the King, we will be able to survive. We will be able to endure, and we won't be overcome. And the curses and the calamities, while they're absolutely terrible and terrifying, each one, as we said, a bigger nightmare than the next. But when we have Hashem, even after we sinned, even after we strayed, Hashem, at that point, then has no other choice but to repay us. But even then, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says the Medrash, Atam Nitzavim hayom lifnei Hashem Elokechem, that when with Hashem, nothing is going to take us over. When we face challenges, when we face Rahman al-Tzlan retribution, when Hashem has to pay us back, tsaros, nisyonis, things that we never ask for, that we never want. But when we're with Hashem, when we're living with Einun Mavadai, when we're living in the embrace of the Rebbeinu Shel Olam, the Eibishter, the Bashefer, the one who created the Kol Ha'olam Kuloi, the one who's Mechadesh B'Tuva B'Choim Tamim Ma'asav Reishis, constantly recreating, respinning, pumping new chiyas into the entire Bria, from Tchilas Brias Olam until the end, Soif Kol HaDoros. Even when we're going through those Shverkeiten, when we're going through those scary times. But says Moshe Rabbeinu, we're going to be able to get through. Even when Hashem is paying us back, we are going to be able to overcome. So even though Moshe Rabbeinu, of course, didn't promise that there won't be the klalos, Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't have the power, doesn't have the shoulders, as great as he was, he can't go against the Bria Sa'ilam, the way the Teva's created. Hashem has to pay back. And even though Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't saying that the klalos are going to be okay, it's not going to be a merry-go-round, it's not going to be fuzzy and warm and roses, it's not going to be that. No, Moshe Rabbeinu did not say that. They may be devastating, they will be scary, but they're not going to overcome, and you are going to remain standing even after you get pounded. Because when you're with Hashem, in His presence, nothing can overcome you. There's an incredible story that Rabbi Cheskel Sarna, the Mashgiach of Slobodka, told of his wife when she was a little girl. His wife told him the following story. When she was a little girl running from the Nazis, one night she found from a distance a little house lit up, and she had two choices. Either she was going to stay in the forest and get shot and her life would be over, or she's going to take a chance. She's going to knock on that door, completely unknown who stands behind it, who lives in that building, who lives in that house. Knock on the door, and maybe it'll be a Nazi, and maybe they're going to shoot me point blank, but maybe I have some type of chance that I'm going to live. And the brave little girl goes, runs after that light, knocks on the door, and to her greatest disappointment, she thought her life was over right then and there. This big, burly Nazi opens the door, and this little girl looks up, starts crying, and the German soldier, the Nazi, says, "What are you doing over here?" And with no choice, she just says, "I'm running away, I'm sitting in the forest, and I saw a light from so far away. I figured I'd come, I figured I'd give it a try, and here I am, begging for my life." The officer looking down at her seemed confused and said, "I don't even understand. How did you get to my door? How did you get past the German shepherds outside?" Now these weren't ordinary dogs, these were Nazi-trained German shepherds, infamous for their viciousness, trained to kill. And the officer was completely astonished that this young girl had somehow evaded the dogs. And he picked the little girl up and said, "Listen to me. Stay here tonight, but tomorrow you're dead. And in front of all the officers, I'm going to throw you to my dogs, and they're going to devour you. But I'm going to tell you one thing, little girl. If you somehow survive, you'll have my protection for the rest of the war." The whole night, the little girl laid in terror, davening and repeating to herself that the Nazi, the dogs, all of it were just a mask, a complete facade, and that Einun Mavadai, Hashem is the one who runs the world, and all of these dogs and scary Nazis, they're all powered by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The next morning, after she focused the entire night on HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the morning came and the Nazi gathered all the officers to witness what he thought would be her brutal end. And the little girl walked back and forth in the front of the vicious dogs, but miraculously, not one of them moved. They didn't bark, they didn't attack. And the Nazi, absolutely stunned by what he had just witnessed, kept his word. And from that moment until the end of the war, the Rebbetzin Sarna, lived under his protection. This is the story that the Alter told over to his Bachrim, and this is the story that we have to remind ourselves as we go into Rosh Hashanah, as we read Parshas Nitzavim, even when we're at the hand of the devil. There's the Samach Mems, there's the Sitra Achra, the Yitzhahara, the Malach HaMavis, Hashem Yishmar. We're going into Rosh Hashanah, and there are devils There are the black malachim, the masdinim, the accusing malachim. And while we come to Kadosh Baruch Hu after an entire year, and we're far from perfect, we have imperfections and things to work on, things to change, and we don't have it all worked out. We didn't have it worked out last year. We're coming to Hashem this year, and we still don't have it worked out. And we can only hope for next year we'll have it worked out. But for now, we're work in progress. We come to Hashem and we have the checks and balances, and we have chayvus we have to pay, averis we have to do tshuva for, and we want to do the best. We want to improve. We want to be closer. We want to be pure. And we're scared. There's definitely a very terrifying aspect of Rosh Hashanah, the din, the mishpat, but at the same time, it's a yontif. The Navi tells us, Nehemiah tells us, go to your house, achlu mashmanim shesem amtakim, go home, eat fatty meats, drink, satiate yourselves, enjoy in the Simchas Yontif. And it's this nikuda, we have to strengthen ourselves. It's imperative for each and every one of us to remind ourselves of this truth, the Musar, the Divrei Nechama that Moshe Rabbeinu gave to Klal Yisrael. Atam Nitzavim hayom kulchem lifnei Hashem Elokeichem. Zok the Medrash, when he's standing in Hashem's presence, although we're not going to obliterate the klalos, we can't cancel them. There's no option for that. Hopefully we can reduce them. Hopefully we can minimize their effect. And Hashem will have Rahmanas, and He won't give Him to us at all. But we all go through things. We all go through nisayonos and tests, trials and travails throughout the year. And we hope they're kept to mamish or minimal. Things we can manage, things we can handle. But they can be hard, they can be difficult and challenging. And we have to remind ourselves that even though Hashem has to met punishment, Hashem has to give retribution, Dan Yechidi, at the end of the day, we're all Nitzavim, Lefnei Hashem Elokeichem. And that same Nechama that Klal Yisrael accepted, they received, and were mechazik themselves after they heard the klalos of last week's parsha. As we go into the Nar Yor, Tachal Shana B'Chaiseh, we hope that it's a brand new year of happiness, of simcha, of prosperity, and Dalet Zaraseinu, the end to all of the pain and sorrow that we've been going through on such a tremendous level. But for the personal things, for the personal nisayonos, we can comfort ourselves in the fact that no matter what Hashem has to do and what Hashem has to take care of, we're all Nitzavim Lefnei Hashem, we're all walking with Hashem. And when we do that, when we're in Hashem's embrace, we can overcome anything because Hashem is carrying us through those. Hashem made them for us. Hashem curated each one for us, for our needs. Somehow they're meant to help us reach our greatest potential, reach our tikkun ha'olam, become the best version of ourselves we can be. And we have to remind ourselves as we go into Rosh Hashanah that when we're Nitzavim dik, when we're walking with Hashem, we're standing with Hashem. Even when Rachmana Litzlan, there's the devil, there's a malach, hamakatrigim, there's a whole tumult and din in Shemayim, and the malachim ha'chefezun, they're panicking, and there's a lot going on, and we don't know, we don't understand. But at the end of the day, we're Nitzavim with Hashem, we're standing with Hashem, and we can get through anything, we can overcome anything, and we're not going to let whatever negativity has to be administered, has to be prescribed, we're not going to let it take us down. We're not going to let it overcome us. Rather, we're going to take it in, let it be part of our growth, of our aliyah, of our steiging, of our getting closer to the Eibishter. And when we do that, when we take it and channel it and use it towards aliyah, towards growth, may Hashem reap the greatest nachas ruach, see how much we want to be with Him, see how much we want to channel everything toward Him, and to realize that everything Hashem is giving us is kol man da'avid rachman l'tav avid. May we all grow to the greatest we can be zeicher to ksiv chsim atayva, and always live as Nitzavim Lefnei Hashem Elokeichem. And like our forefathers, our avos, took that as a chizik, as a nechama, we too, no matter what we face, when we remind ourselves that we're Nitzavim, we're standing with Hashem, we should have a ksiv chsim atayva, enjoy our yantif, be misanagid the yantif, because while there's din, and while there's mishpat, there's also this element of being with the Eibishter, being one with the Hashem Elohu Elokim Elodim Elvadai, with Kudsha Brichu, the creator of the entire world. And there's no greater simcha, there's no greater happiness that we can be one with the King on this day of judgment. May He bestow upon all of us. I thank each and every one of you for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and I wish you a wonderful Shabbos.